guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is a story time, why I chose to be a medical coder over going to law school. If you're brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. I have been a medical coder for over 10 years. A lot of times when I'm talking in my videos, I will revert back to the basis of how I think of things, right? What are the roots of how I think? And my roots was when I was a kid, I wanted to be an attorney. I think it started in the second grade because I look back on the Remember Me books that I would make for my mom. And it would say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I would say an attorney. You know, that was my whole thing. And so it started then. It started very early. And I don't really know what sparked it. All I know is I must have been reading something or looking at something, and that's how I got the inspiration. I was reading a lot, even in the second grade. I mean, I've always been a reader. I've always been one to love to write as well. So having that thought in my mind, okay, so I have a direction, you know, that's what I want to do in the second grade, that little, yeah. I'm telling you guys, I am a nerd. So anyway, I spent a lot of time studying. I did not do any of the social things when I was in school, like, you know, party all night or have boyfriends and anything like that. I didn't do that, okay? I didn't even date when I was in high school. I didn't do that. So it was all about school. I just never had the desire to go out and do all those things. I didn't even go to prom. I didn't go to prom at all. So after I turned 18, my mom had delivered phone books, right? And I would do this in the summertime with her, spring break or whatever. And delivering phone books was amazing. I mean, it's like you think, phone books really, Blue? Yeah, actually. It was very lucrative back then, before everybody had cell phones. And cell phones weren't as prevalent, okay? It started off with beepers, people. That's how it started. But everybody wanted phone books. And every city had different seasons, okay? So we would travel around, and we did that. And the whole idea was that we were going to work for a little while, you know, and then save some money. And then we were going to be able to stop after a couple of years, you know, at least. And then I can start going to school and we can do our thing. And that was the whole idea, because we made so much money doing the phone books. And so we were traveling around, and it was the most amazing time. We saw and we did so much. And that was the best thing, right? And so a couple years into this, I met my husband. We're divorced now, and he has since passed away. But I had met him, and about a year later, we got married. And so then it was like around the perfect time, because, you know, we had been delivering phone books for about 3 years or so. And 3 or 4 years almost. And we just decided to okay, now's the time to stop, because I had gotten married. You know, my husband had a good job and everything, and he was very much, you know, he wanted me to be traditional. He's like, I would really like you to be at home, and I want us to have a family. And I was like, okay, well, okay, that sounds all right, you know, because we were okay, you know. And so I mean, being at home versus being out on the road and doing all those things, it was boring fast. And I was trying to do like a job. Like I told him I wanted to work, and he was very, I have a hard time because he's passed away, and I don't ever want to say anything bad about him. But there was the whole thing of, we were very young. We were both really young, and I will say that. And to be as young as we were, you know, I think I was like 22 at the time that I got married. Yeah, it was somewhere around there. I was 22. And, and, you know, when you're young, you know, and he's a few years older than me, like three years older. So you're hot-tempered, and, you know, there was a lot of, he was very, I don't know like a good way to say it, but like he was very like domineering, you know, and, you know, he wanted me to be in the house, and I said, well, okay, well, if you don't want me to go to work, he's like, no, I don't want you to work. I want you to stay at home. And I was like, okay, well, then let me go to school then. Because, you know, obviously I wanted to go back to what I wanted to be, which was an attorney. And when we were dating, it was all about, oh, you know, I just love you because you're so smart. You know, that was his thing. And he's not into the books, whereas I am. So we were very much opposites attract. And he said, that's why, you know, I love you because you're so smart. And then he would turn around and he would use my smart, you know, intelligence against me. And he would say, well, you just think you know everything. And it was one of those things. And it was never like that. You know, I just wanted to go to school because if I was going to be at home and, you know, we weren't having babies yet, you know, I was like, okay, well, let me do something, you know, because this would be a good time, right? To go to school and to be able to start to learn, you know, and then get my degree and then go on to law school. Because then I figured, okay, well, by the time I turn 30, I can, you know, be at a law school and I can be, you know, doing my thing, you know, that way we can have a lot of really good things. Because like I said, my husband had a good job, but you know, we could always do better, you know, and I wanted to be able to do better for us, you know, that was the thing. And, you know, he was very, no, I don't want you. He started to tell me that, no, he didn't want me to go to law school because he said that he didn't want me around like bad people. And I said, there's a lot of different facets to being an attorney. There's like contractual law, there's corporate law, which that was where my focus and direction was in corporate law. That's what I wanted to do. And he's like, no, I don't want you working around all those kind of people and things like that. So it was just really bad. It was very, very bad. And it was just like, okay, well, I can't work and I can't go to school. So, you know, and there's this time ticking, tick, 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 you know, and I was just like, okay, well, I need to do something, you know. And so you try to make things work, right? Because you're young and you're married and you don't want to be a statistic. Whatever you do, you don't want to be a statistic. And like I said, his temper was just really bad and he was just very jealous. And me not really thinking that these things were bad, like, not that I liked his jealousy. I never liked his being jealous, but it was getting worse over time. And so eventually, you know, I just had to tell him that we needed to divorce because it was not getting any better and it was actually getting worse. And a whole lot of other things happened that, you know, it's not as interesting to talk about on here. But I said, well, you know, when I was going through the divorce and everything, I moved back in with my mom. And she said, well, you can go back to school now. You can do that. And I was like, okay. So being unemployed at the time, because obviously I didn't have a job, and I had to go to the unemployment office, you know, and then go through all those programs that they have you go through. And so the education one was one of them. It was, at the time, it was the WIA, the Workforce Innovation Act. Now it's updated. The name is changed to Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. So that's what I got into, and that's how I started to learn about medical coding. And I didn't really recognize the signs that were there with medical coding, like that you have to be able to prove your argument, and you have to be able to find your resources, and you have to be able to find sightings, and the sightings being like the coding clinics and things like that. You have to be able to cite those things when you're giving an argument. I didn't recognize that that's what I was doing. But I always had a way of persuasion as well, because it's just like, okay, if I do this and if I do this and if I say this, you know, the argument's going to sound really good. So that was how I started to win a lot of my audits back. You know, I started to learn those things and really started to, like, after a while, I was like, okay, you know, this is cool, you know. Of course, I fast forwarded through a big part of what happened as well. So when I started to get my first job as a medical coder, and then it was very temporary. It was only 3 months. And then I ended up getting another job that was hours away, and I moved away from my mom. I moved out, and I didn't want to because my mom was sick at the time, and I just didn't want to do this and like be away from her. You know, I really wished I could have found a job, you know, in my hometown, but I couldn't. And they said, well, if you move away, you know, we'll have a job for you. And I was like, okay, the temporary agency. I was like, okay. So I went ahead and went, and, you know, being there, I learned a lot more, and I got better and obviously more sophisticated with my arguments and things. And, things just sort of kept going. And I was like, oh, okay, well, the more I started to do it, the more interesting it got. The passion didn't ignite until years later, though. So there's a difference between really liking what you do, which is where I was, right? And then it was just like, okay, I'm just going to keep doing this, because it's very interesting. And then, I get here and less than a year, all this stuff is happening, right? I got my first job and then I got my second job and then I came here and then my mom passed away. So you want to talk about like your whole world just like going away. That's pretty much how it felt. And at that time, I just sort of didn't think about, well, I want to go to law school, because at that point, like literally everything just stops. You're trying to just get through, your what you're going through, which was a tremendous loss for me. And it was like, okay, let me just go on autopilot. Let me just continue on and just keep doing my job and because that's how I thought of it as a job at the time. Let me just keep doing this and let me just not think about anything else. And I literally went into like autopilot for a few years. It was a few years that I had gone through this. Meanwhile, I had been fully divorced and everything, hadn't spoken to my ex-husband in about a year after we had divorced. And then I found out that he passed away. So that was just like bam, bam, it was just like within a few years of each other, like only a couple of years, really. I think it's like 3 years between the two. And it was just like, wow, because what do you do? And not really, like I said, not really thinking about doing anything else and just sort of trying to like say, okay, now where do I go? What do I do? Because, with my mom gone, and even though, my husband and I were divorced, he did always say, I really would like to keep in touch with you. But I just sort of always said that I didn't want to stay in touch so much because I didn't want to keep him from moving forward. I just wanted to move forward. I wanted him to move forward. And I didn't want us to hold each other back, pretty much. And all in all, we were married for 10 years. So, that's a long time, and to be with somebody, and literally he was like my first love. And so, what are you going to do? And so it just sort of, my law school aspirations just sort of went away after that, after going through, trying to get through process those losses, right? Because it's not just one, but it's 2 losses. And then just sort of moving on and trying to be okay. And then having that aha moment, which my aha moment for my career, which is what I say when like the passion really ignited of like, I really love my job. Then now it turns into, oh my gosh, I really love my career. Because the one constant that I had the whole time that my life was going through all of these changes was the coding. And this was where I fell back into, because when everything else was changing and moving all around me, I could concentrate on the coding. The coding was the one that was the stabilizer, right? And it was the one that was like, okay, we have these charts we have to read, and we have these codes we have to pick up, and how are we going to get better? How are we going to make this easier for ourselves? And so I did that, and so that's how I just sort of threw myself into doing that. And it worked, because like I said, I had that aha moment in 2014. And when I had that, I was just like, okay, now this is good. This is good, because having that aha moment was everything. And that was the thing that really turned everything around. It was like, if I really start to devote myself more to this, I'm going to learn more, and it's going to be easier for me. And then ICD-10 started to happen, and they were training us into that. So I was like, oh, okay, well, let me just get more involved into this. And so that's what I did. And then sort of really looking at what I was doing and being able to have arguments and being able to vehemently fight for my providers is what attorneys do for their clients. And that's sort of like where my head got to after a while, because it was not just about defending my work, it was about defending my provider's work. Because there's going to be times when an auditor will look at your provider's record and say, no, this provider is not entitled to this. And if they have everything there that will support what you selected, they have everything there that will support the work that they did, then you need to do what you can to fight for them so that they can get that credit. And I did this, and I did this, and I did this well, because there was times when I had to have my arguments for a provider, right, on a provider's behalf, elevated to somebody other than my supervisor. And we had to have it to a third-party neutral, and they agreed with me. And it was time and time again that I was being agreed with. So with that, you know, it was just such a sense of accomplishment for me, because it was like, even though I ended up not being an attorney, I still can go through those motions of I'm defending my provider, I'm defending my work, and I'm making sure that I get the best possible outcome for them. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones that's doing all the work, and whatever they document is whatever they're going to get paid for. So you have to make sure that the two marries up. Well, I think when I realized that I could do this and still do the coding is when the passion came on too, because it was like, okay, I didn't completely lose out on my thought process of being an attorney, but not in the sense of a traditional attorney, but more of like being a really good advocate for my providers and making sure that all the details are there and everything. So that is pretty much why. And, you know, like I said, when you go through things in life and you see like everything around you, and then you look at what you're doing and you look at what saves you, and not to make the coding sound like rah, 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 you know, but that was pretty much what happened. That was pretty much how I kept my head above water during all that time, and to be able to process all those losses and to be able to get through all of that time and just to really start to enjoy what I was doing. And then having that moment just a couple of years ago where I said to myself, you know what? People aren't getting the truth. People aren't knowing these detailed things. I was walking with a friend at the time, and we were at the track, and you know, she was just saying, wow, she's like, you know, you're so smart, and thank you for helping me. I really appreciate it, because she needed a reference for an argument for herself for one of her audits. And I had trained her when she first started as profi coder. And so she's like, you know, she goes, you should be a teacher. And her saying that, I said, you know what? I should do a channel on YouTube. And she's like, that would be a really good idea. She's like, I think a lot of people would watch you because you really like what you do, Blue. And you just, you go all in. And she's been there, and she's seen me have these spirited debates with people who have more letters behind their name. And she said, you just go through and you shine. And she goes, this is when I see you like the most happy, when you're at work and you when you light up and you're saying how, and you're explaining these things, which you explain it a lot more clearer than a lot of these other people. And I said, aw. So that's what's like, oh, okay, you know what? Let me go ahead and do this. So then it was setting up the camera, and it was like really getting involved and thinking, gosh, what kind of show am I gonna come up with next? And you know, that's why it's like, okay, you know, even though I didn't become an attorney, this is okay too, because this gives me access to you all, right? You all who are coming in, you know, either older an older person trying to start a new career, or, you know, somebody who wants to start their life over like me, you know, like how I did. And it's nice to be able to be around people that are like that, you know, because I've been where you are. You know, I've been, you know, wondering like, you know, what am I doing the right thing? Is this what I'm supposed to do? And then when I see like the messages that they come in and, you know, from people, and they're saying how much I helped them and how much this means to them, it's more motivation for me to keep continuing to do this, because I know this helps somebody, right? Because you just have to do things in life that when you feel that spark to do something and you do it, there's a reason for that. There's a reason for, you know, the things that I've been through. And I think being able to come here and share them with you all is a good thing, you know. And I know sometimes it's just like some people, they're just like, you really went through all that. Yeah, I did. I did. I really did. And sometimes I just look back, I'm like, you know, we make decisions in life, and, you know, my decision to leave, you know, a relationship that wasn't good, and to start again, and to have that mindset of, I'm going to do this, and there's no failure. I could not fail. And that was the one thing that I said. I said I could not fail. And my only goal was that I was be able to move back home to my hometown and be with my mom and do the fun things that we did when we were delivering phone books, and have that kind of life. But, you know, I mean, what are you gonna do? This journey is amazing, though. It is everything. And then, like I said, sharing it with all you guys and being able to touch the next generation of medical coders is amazing. And getting messages from people that they hear about me on this one side and then they hear about me on this other side, it's just like, because they heard about me from somebody else, I'm like, I have the best audience. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. But yes, that is the story of why I chose to stick with medical coding and not to go to law school. So sometimes if you're out there and you're thinking that your life was meaning to go one way, believe it or not, if you open your eyes, you can really see the things that is right in front of you that maybe you were being trained for all along. And I think about that sometimes. I think about that maybe the whole time when I was a kid coming up and having all of this training, the reading and the writing and all of this, it was actually training me to be ready for this career field. So maybe that's you too. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this one up. I hope you'll join me tomorrow. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on anything. And I will see y'all on the next video. Bye.